Climate change update, causes and solutions. Abstract. In recent times the world has witnessed an alarming increase in natural disasters. According to spiritual research, the primary cause of increased natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods and volcanic eruptions is a cyclical process that occurs in the universe over time. The natural disasters we have witnessed so far are just the beginning of a destructive phase, which will increase in intensity over the next 5 years up to 2023. This destructive phase will also see the Third World War, where there will be a great loss of life. Practicing spirituality is the only way to survive these difficult times. This article was first published in 2007 and has been updated as of June 2019. References. To understand this article, it is suggested that you familiarize yourself with the following foundational articles: Sattva, Raja and Tama, the three subtle basic components of the universe, the five absolute cosmic principles. Table of contents. Show 1. The increasing intensity of natural disasters. Over the past decade, the world has witnessed an increase in the number and intensity of natural disasters worldwide. Through the media, and for some of us, through first-hand experience, we have seen the awesome force of nature. In the recent past, we have had natural disasters due to tsunamis in Southeast Asia and Japan, earthquakes in Pakistan, Haiti and China, as well as hurricanes like Katrina and others in North and Central America. These disasters have caused unprecedented devastation and great loss of life that have been etched in our minds due to their magnitude. Can it get worse? And if so, how much time do we have? Can anything be done about it? The following graph shows that globally, the number of disasters has been increasing, and this is especially so in the past 2 decades. The number of geophysical disasters on the Earth's surface, like earthquakes, landslides and volcanic eruptions, have remained somewhat steady since the 1970s. But the number of climate-related catastrophes has vastly increased. In fact, climate change is now being viewed as an existential threat to humanity, second only to a full-blown nuclear war. The majority of the world's scientists have attributed the changes in climate to the fact that the Earth is getting warmer, see graph above, primarily due to never-before-seen increases in greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane and nitrous oxide. In 2013, carbon dioxide levels surpassed 400 parts per million ppm for the first time in recorded history. This upward trend has continued, with 411 ppm being recorded in May 2019, NASA, 2019. In contrast, prior to the advent of the industrial era, atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations in parts per million ppm for the past 800,000 years have never crossed 300 ppm. This is based on Epica ice core data, see graph below. Lindsay, 2018. The atmospheric concentration of CO2 has increased dramatically, from a pre-industrial era AD 1000 to 1750 concentration of approximately 280 parts per million ppm to today's 400 ppm plus. Lindsay, 2018. Taking cognizance of this alarming trend, the United Nations set up the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) to assess the science related to climate change. The IPCC does not conduct its own research. However, through its assessments, the IPCC determines the state of knowledge on climate change. It identifies where there is agreement in the scientific community on topics related to climate change, and where further research is needed. One of the key questions is whether humans are responsible for climate change. To this, the panel has given the following verdict. Human influence has been detected in warming of the atmosphere and the ocean, in changes in the global water cycle, in reductions in snow and ice, in global mean sea level rise, and in changes in some climate extremes. This evidence for human influence has grown since AR4. It is extremely likely, 95 to 100%, that human influence has been the dominant cause of the observed warming since the mid-20th century. The Fifth Assessment Report AR5 of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC), finalized in 2014, skeptics on the theory of climate change argue that there is no conclusive evidence about the extent of the relationship between humans, global warming and climate change. So what is creating climate change, and why are the number of natural disasters increasing in number and intensity? As this is a phenomenon which has global impacts on society, SSRF in association with the Maharishi University of Spirituality undertook spiritual research to determine the root causes of climate change and the increasing intensity of natural disasters. 2. What causes natural disasters and climate change? When climate scientists study climate change, they primarily focus on the physical causes and physical solutions. In contrast, spiritual research conducted through advanced sixth sense takes a holistic approach when analyzing the root causes of climate change. It takes into account all three dimensions, i.e., physical, psychological and spiritual, to analyze and assess the underlying causes of climate change and the increasing intensity and frequency of natural disasters. The following chart explains the root causes behind climate change obtained through spiritual research. Through spiritual research, it was found that humans by themselves are responsible for only 2% of the reasons for climate change. Man-made physical causes include burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, etc. Psychological causes include personality defects of people. Spiritual causes include high ego prevalent in people, a lack of spiritual practice as per universal principles, a low average spiritual level of mankind, etc. 98% of the root causes behind climate change are due to cyclical changes taking place in the region of the universe around Earth. These cyclical changes also include the cycle's effect on people, the environment and also subtle entities in the unseen world, also known as the spiritual dimension. The low part of this current cycle makes them behave in a manner that is different to how they would normally behave. But what does this exactly mean? Let us try and understand this in a little more detail. Since its creation, the universe right up to its dissolution goes through four main eras. We are now in the fourth era, known as Kali-Yuga, or the era of strife. The trademark of this current era is that it has higher levels of spiritual pollution, explained below, as compared to previous eras. These main eras are also made up of mini-eras or mini-cycles of the universe. The years 1999 to 2023 signify the end of a mini-cycle in the region of the universe around Earth. 2024 is the year when the new cycle commences. 3. The three subtle components and cycles. Each cycle goes through stages of creation, sustenance and destruction. A cycle is inherently spiritual in nature and caused by changes in the proportion of the three subtle components of the universe. The three subtle basic components, sattva, raja and tama, are the most fundamental components of creation. Unknown to modern sciences, they are in all things living and non-living, tangible and intangible. Sattva stands for purity and knowledge, raja stands for action, and tama stands for spiritual ignorance and inertia. When there is an increase in the sattva component, there is well-being and balance in weather patterns. When there is an increase in or spread of the Raja-Tama components, there is instability, and it eventually leads to something bad or to destruction. An increase in the proportion of the Tama component results in spiritual pollution. The Raja component provides momentum to either the Sattva or Tama components. When there is an increase in Raja-Tama, it results in the spread of spiritual pollution or the Tama component. 3.1 Example of a microcycle, day and night. Even in a day, one goes through a cycle such as early morning where the sun rises, and thereafter it progresses to late morning, early afternoon, twilight, evening and night. The cycle is complete when dawn breaks the following day. Each of these sections of the day have their own physical and spiritual properties. One's behavior too changes based on the time of the day. For example, in the morning, we feel like getting up, and we feel fresh, alert, and ready for work. By afternoon, we are more lethargic. In the evening, we feel like going out and enjoying ourselves, or we feel like unwinding. People are more likely to display unruly behavior at night. Statistics reveal that violent crimes committed by adults usually peak at around 9 to 10 p.m. and are lowest at around 6 a.m. OJJDP.gov. As we progress into the night, we are tired, and we want to sleep. So, the time of the day also has an impact on our behavior. Just as nighttime, which signifies the end of a daily cycle, adversely affects people's behavior, so also, when the end of a mini-cycle takes place, it affects human behavior adversely. 3.2 The cycle's effect on humans. In the beginning of a cycle, the sattva component is relatively greater in proportion, and hence there is peace and well-being. In contrast, when any cycle of the universe comes to its end, by default it means that the proportion of the Raja-Tama components in the environment has risen as compared to other times in that cycle. This has a detrimental influence on people and the environment. To understand this more simply, let's go back to the microcycle of day and night, which was discussed earlier. At dawn, the sattva subtle component is dominant, and it is considered one of the most spiritually pure parts of the day. Due to this, people's activities in the morning are relatively more sattvic as compared to the rest of the day. However, at night the tama component in the environment is dominant, and it adversely affects people's behavior. People tend to indulge in more tamasic activities at night. At the end of a cycle, like the one that the world is currently going through, the heightened levels of spiritual impurity make people act inappropriately all around. People act far more appropriately when the environment is spiritually positive. Soil and Water Experiment SSRF and the Maharishi University of Spirituality ran a study about the subtle aspects of soil and water samples from around the world. The findings have been quite revealing about the current state of the world. As of 1 June 2019, 293 soil samples and 287 water samples have been collected from 26 countries. Using an aura and energy scanner, the samples were measured for their subtle properties. Over 80% of the soil and water samples outside of India were found to have negative subtle vibrations. There are also strong indications that the negativity is rising in the samples with time. These findings corroborate spiritual research findings that there are heightened levels of spiritual pollution in the environment due to an increase in the proportion of the Tama component. Read more about the spiritual research conducted on soil and on water. 4. Role of negative energies in climate change. On the back of the low end of a cycle, powerful negative energies from the spiritual dimension also play a major part. The spiritually polluted environment in the low end of a cycle makes it easier for negative energies to control society, and they do so primarily due to the personality defects of people. Negative energies exacerbate people's bad behavior to their advantage, thus increasing the Tama component. This is the primary reason why the world is in its current state, the potent combination of the low end of a cycle, and on the back of it, negative energies and the personality defects of humans. It is also the primary reason why man has neglected and abused the environment and the only home he has, planet Earth. So, without the influence of the cycle, humans contribute to only 2% of the reasons for climate change. However, under the influence of the end of a cycle and spurred on by negative energies, man becomes an important medium in the physical plane through which global warming and climate change take place. So, while climate change is primarily due to cyclical reasons, it is important to note that the mode of action in the physical plane is through humans, and this contributes to the 98% of the causes of climate change. 5. Role of carbon dioxide in climate change. Earlier we had shown the increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which has risen to above 400 ppm. Scientists say that carbon dioxide, CO2, is the main heat-trapping gas in the atmosphere, largely responsible for most of the average warming over the past several decades. UCSUSA.org, 2017. Climate skeptics downplay the consequences of anthropogenic, originating in human activity, climate change by arguing that carbon dioxide emissions are positive for the planet's vegetation. As the argument goes, plants rely on carbon dioxide to survive, and if the atmosphere contains more of the gas, it could stimulate plant growth. Questions about the role of CO2 in climate change and answers gained through spiritual research. 1. Is the significant rise in CO2 affecting the planet and climate change? Answer: yes. 2. Is this the main cause of climate change? Answer: only if we look at it purely from a physical viewpoint. Otherwise it is mainly due to cyclical changes. 3. Is the rise in CO2 levels being caused only by humans? Answer: no. 70% of the increase in CO2 is due to subtle causes and 30% is due to humans. The 30% due to humans is due to physical and psychological causes. However, this ratio can vary over time. 6. Root cause of global warming. The last 5 years, from 2014 to 2018, are the warmest years ever recorded in the 139 years that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration (NOAA) has tracked global heat. The year 2016 was the hottest year ever recorded at 0.98 degrees Celsius above the 1951 to 1980 mean. NASA global temperature 2018. The IPCC have urged countries to limit the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, as beyond this temperature rise, there could be devastating climatic consequences. IPCC 2018. At a physical level, scientists attribute this global warming to physical causes, which is primarily the greenhouse effect. However, if we analyze the causes through spiritual research, then the following are the proportion of root causes from the 3 dimensions. 67% due to cyclical, subtle, spiritual reasons with the Raja and Tama components affecting the absolute fire principle. 33% due to humans using their intellectual processes incorrectly and abusing the environment through emissions, deforestation, etc. At a psychological level, it also includes the spiritual impurity caused by the personality defects of people. 0% physical reasons. The physical reasons are 0% because the root cause of the physical issues lies in humans' incorrect thinking processes, at the psychological and intellectual levels. Some people may think of 1.5 degrees Celsius as not that high. To illustrate its impact with an analogy, it is like when a person gets a fever. If a person's temperature crosses 38 degrees Celsius from his normal temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, he is considered to be running a fever. Just a 1 degree Celsius rise makes him feel awful. 7. End of a cycle and destruction due to natural disasters. The end of a cycle also culminates in higher levels of destruction before a new cycle can start. When there is an increase in the Dharma component, it adversely affects the absolute cosmic principles of earth, water, fire, air and ether. These cosmic principles are the building blocks of nature and sustain the world and the weather as we know it. When the water principle is affected, it creates floods, tsunamis or a lack of water, which leads to drought. When the fire principle is adversely affected, it results in an increase in extreme heat waves, volcanic activity, wildfires or extreme cold, which is an absence of heat. In this way, destruction is affected through the absolute cosmic principles, and this destruction paves the way for the new era, cycle to begin. In the following table, the absolute cosmic principle and the disasters related to them are given. Please note the cause of disasters can be due to a combination of cosmic principles. Humans, due to their activities, physical, psychological, spiritual, can only influence lower cosmic principles such as earth, water and fire. Higher-level cosmic principles are less prone to be affected by human behavior. The higher-level cosmic principles such as air and ether are mostly affected by cyclical changes. This can be probably best understood by an analogy of spring cleaning one's house. We clean our houses every day and we remove quite a lot of dust and dirt that has built up over the day. But every few months, we do a proper spring cleaning, to completely clean the house. This is exactly what is currently going to happen, the spring cleaning of Earth. This is happening in two ways, through natural disasters and the Third World War. The difference is when we do cleaning of our homes, it is mostly limited to just the physical level. When God cleans Earth, the focus is primarily on the spiritual cleansing of the Earth plane, which is the raising of the sattva component and reducing the tama component. People who have many personality defects and who are tama predominant become casualties of such a cleansing. 8. Amount of destruction due to climate change and World War III. Just as one can plot temperatures and trend lines in the physical realm, trend lines and forecasts can also be plotted taking into account physical, psychological and spiritual aspects. To give our readers an idea of the scale of the destruction, the tsunami that hit Asia in 2004 created devastation that is approximately 1/1000th of the destruction that will happen between 2019 and 2023. The curve in the above chart shows the escalation of destruction in the times to come. The level of destruction shown in beginning of the chart is a result of all the destruction between 1999 to 2019. At the end, it shows that there will be a roughly 50-50 split in the destruction that will take place through natural disasters and the Third World War in the next 5 years. Due to World War III and natural disasters, 70% of the world's infrastructure will be destroyed. Most of the cities worldwide will be completely destroyed. Through spiritual research, we have found that the last time such levels of destruction happened at a planetary level was approximately 30,000 years ago. In the coming times more people will die due to the Third World War as opposed to the natural disasters. This is even though the physical destruction will be approximately the same for both. Approximately half the world's population will perish in this period. 8.1 Type of natural disasters contributing to the destruction. Through spiritual research, we were able to gain a clearer understanding about the impact of the various types of natural disasters that are to be expected. Source: Spiritual Research, June 2019. 8.2 When will the climate start to get back to normal? The weather patterns and natural disasters will begin to start settling down after 2025 and will come back to normal in about 50 to 60 years from 2025. During this period, a new generation of people will be born who will be relatively more sattvic. 9. Biological disasters. Another interesting fact that we found through spiritual research is that the cause behind most deadly pathogenic diseases on Earth such as AIDS, Ebola and bird flu is because of higher-level negative energies. After 2025, when the new era, cycle, starts, there will be no introduction of new deadly pathogenic diseases. The pathogens that have been created by negative energies, however, will remain on Earth and cures need to be found for them. 10. Adverse collective destiny. Destiny is that part of our lives that is not within our control and is due to our actions from previous births. If one has done many bad things in a previous life that gave others pain, then the destiny in one's current lifetime would comprise of more suffering and pain. There are certain parts of our lives controlled by our free will, and we can use it the way we please. However, there is another aspect of destiny which is known as collective destiny, and this is generally applicable to groups of people, or to a town or a country. Source: Spiritual Research, May 2019. As you will observe from the above table, in the current era, collective destiny for an average person would be approximately 10%, whereas his individual destiny would be 60% and free will would account for the remaining 30%. But as we go into the final stage of the cycle, collective destiny will start to exert a larger effect on our lives, which is as much as 30%. Therefore, destined events, mostly adverse, will account for 75% of our lives from 2019 to 2023. The people living in the places where the collective destiny is very adverse are likely to be hit by more intense natural disasters and greater levels of destruction during World War III. 11. What can we do about it? The purpose of this article is not to instill fear but to alert people about the imminent destructive phase in Earth's history and to offer solutions on what to do to survive. Let us first start by quickly recapping the prevailing views of climate change around the world. The changing of mini-cycles is something that we as humans have no control over. However, these changes that affect the entire planet are inherently spiritual in nature. The divine aim of this upheaval, be it natural disasters or World War III, is to bring back Sattvikta, spiritual purity, on Earth. Accordingly, a prerequisite for a person to gain entry into the new era is that he would need to have higher levels of Sattvikta. Spiritual practice, that is as per universal principles, is the best way to increase one's spiritual level and the sattva component in oneself. Even though we may not be able to stop the onslaught of this terrible time, we can make efforts to survive it by making concerted efforts to practice spirituality. The following are 4 things we recommend our readers do, to help themselves survive this period. 1. Chanting the name of God. We recommend 2 chants for protection in the coming times. A. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, a chant that is spiritually conducive for the current years up to 2023. B. Shri Gurudev Dutta, for overcoming problems due to departed ancestral spirits. It is suggested to chant the name for at least 2 hours a day. 2. Eliminating one's personality defects by practicing the personality defect removal process. This will help increase one's peace of mind and reduce the subtle karma component in one. 3. Increase prayers to ask for the strength and the fortitude to be regular in and to increase one's spiritual practice. Praying for material gain has no spiritual value. 4. Serve the spread of spirituality. This is called Satseva. Serving the spread of spirituality with the qualities of a disciple, i.e., with humility, spiritual emotion, etc., is one of the fastest ways to earn God's grace. When reading this article, you may think it is alarmist, because though things are bad around the world, they are not as bad as the article makes it out to be. You may think, we have more time. After all, the flooding and droughts have happened in a distant land, and the wars that are taking place around the world are not really affecting us. However, things will soon begin to escalate. We are in the final stretch towards destruction of cataclysmic proportions, and neither the governments of the world nor the climate scientists can foresee or be prepared for what is to come in a much shorter time frame than was ever expected. We appeal to the world to take the message in this article seriously and make concerted efforts in spiritual practice. Please note, we will be publishing some life-saving information and healing techniques in our section on the Survival Guide. 12. Bibliography IPCC 2018. Global warming of 1.5 C. Retrieved from IPCC, https://www.ipcc.ch/sr15/chapter/summary-for-policy-makers/Lindsay R. 2018, August 1. Climate change, atmospheric carbon dioxide. Retrieved from climate.gov, https://www.climate.gov/news-features/understanding-climate-change-atmospheric-carbon-dioxide NASA. 2018. Global temperature. Retrieved from Global Climate Change, https://climate.nasa.gov/vital-signs/global-temperature/NASA. 2019, May. Carbon dioxide. Retrieved from Global Climate Change, https://climate.nasa.gov/vital-signs/carbon-dioxide/ojjdp.gov. 2018, October 22. Comparing offending by adults and juveniles. Retrieved from Office of Justice Programs, https://www.ojjdp.gov/oj/state-bb/offenders/car0341.asp?cadate=2016 ucsusa.org. 2017, August 1. How do we know that humans are the major cause of global warming? Retrieved from Union of Concerned Scientists, https://www.ucsusa.org/global-warming/science-and-impacts/science/human-contribution-to-gw-fact.html